Real democracy in Manus. So much money went into keeping people distracted and misinformed that the possibility of real democracy seemed a slim one. The education system, the media, and the entertainment business all ensured people remained passive, isolated, fearful consumers. But people were coming away from their TVs and coming out onto the streets to talk to each other about the very subjects that they had been indoctrinated into leaving to their rulers. It was happening in Greece, Italy, Spain. The slim chance was still a chance. It was happening in Ireland too. Manus went down to one of their meetings outside Dublin's GPO. There was an open mic and people got up to give their tuppence worth. People chanted, "The IMF are Muppets and we are not your puppets." One person would chant and the rest would respond. Manus felt the chant itself was a little Muppet or puppet-like. Anyway, it was suggested that they all hold hands and face the traffic. Manus liked that idea. Not only were they going to topple the world order, he was going to hold someone's hand. He held hands with two Spanish women. Manus hadn't held hands with a woman in years. He was definitely going to the next assembly. They held the next assembly up at Spree, an autonomous, non-hierarchical social centre. Spree was itself a hub of resistance against corporate domination. Manus had trouble with the meetings or indoor assemblies. He wasn't even used to sitting still in a chair for that long. Still he tried. It was tedious and took a lot of patience, and at the end of the meeting you might have decided very little. His basic stance was against corporate control of the world's wealth. There was a couple of dozen or so people. Did they really believe they were going to change the world? Overthrow the corporations who had control of the world's media, the world's resources, the world's security forces? In the face of all the empire's might, nobody could seriously believe it. But empires had fallen before, and here they all were, all 24 of them, plotting the downfall of an empire. Manus had to wonder on the personal social lives of the group. What brought them out? Their private aspirations. He personally didn't have much of a social life, so it was at least in part just the notion of mixing with like-minded people that brought him out. There were a few women at the assemblies too, and Manus had to wonder on his chances. They weren't very good. The Real Democracy crew marched from St Stephen's Green to the Dáil. There was already another group of people protesting outside the Dáil. People with special needs were going to have their funding cut under the new austerity measures. They were pleased at first to be joined by the Real Democracy crew. It all looked good for a while. Both groups cheered and clapped each other. The united force of the people could possibly win out in the end. Then the difference in approach to solving the problem of dealing with the austerity measures became a source of aggravation. The special needs people wanted to work within the structures provided to preserve the hard-fought for rights and funding which the austerity measures were about to erode. The Real Democracy people wanted to get rid of the present structures altogether. The special needs people had somebody inside the Dáil presenting their case, and they were relaying the debate outside the Dáil. Real Democracy people made it difficult to hear by chanting over the debate, like they weren't going to take into consideration what anybody else was doing. Seemed a shame. Chance missed. The Real Democracy crew held up letters in front of themselves for a photo shoot. REAL. DEMOCRACY. Manus held the A from the first word. He wondered just then if the movement would grow until it encompassed the whole population. Would they ever disempower those politicians inside the Dáil? Would they ever disempower the corporations on whose stage politicians danced? The unbelievable can't take place. Manus was stood between two women. The letters E and L were each held by women. It was the closest proximity he had been with women since the last protest. The back of E, A, and L's hands sometimes collided when they held their letters out, and Manus got a little para about his needs leaching out of him. If real democracy was to be a real possibility, he wanted to help bring it about. He didn't want his leching psyche driving these women away. They seemed worlds away from him in experience or culture, in so many ways. But they were all stood here now outside the door, trying to make a more humane world. They seemed sincere. So was he. That didn't mean that he didn't notice Elle's thong rising out of her low-slung jeans. Poor Manus. On his own for so long that he could hardly see a woman, regardless of size or shape, age, creed, colour, or even their social and economic standing, without wondering on the possibilities of him and her getting it together. Truthfully, though, after so much time on his own, he was beginning to come to the conclusion that such a possibility would only be realised in some social vacuum, like a deserted island or something. There he was, stood between two beauties, and then the miracle happened. He got a phone call, which he didn't pick up at first, but when the photo shoot was finished, he checked his phone and got a voice message from a woman just in the area and was thinking of calling down. She was healthy and fit and wanted it. He had been fearful of the maxim, if you don't use it, you lose it. But she was warm and wet and welcoming, and they got to enjoy the sublime and the gross pleasure of the age-old act. She would call round and stay for a few days at a time. They would read books out loud for each other and smoke dope and watch movies and have mammoth sex sessions. Manus felt like Lazarus, resurrected with renewed vigour for life. She said she didn't want it known that she shagged him. It would hurt her ex, she said. Manus thought that was a load of bollocks. But power structures and honesty don't mix, so he refrained from arguing his case with the clear understanding that to do so would cause her to stop calling around and shagging him. It didn't matter much. It wouldn't last long. She had been sexually curious about him even back when she had been with her ex. Now that she wanted to put a little sexual distance between her and her ex, Manus had been handy. But it hadn't been any more than that. She was much younger than him and he had been flattered. But when she stopped calling, he hadn't been surprised or broken-hearted. He did little more than register the drop in his general physiology and hoped the condition wouldn't be permanent. Meanwhile, back at Real Democracy, they had started a camp outside the central bank in Dublin. The call for real democracy, led by the needs of the people rather than corporate profit, had turned into the Occupy movement. People all over the Western world were staying out of their houses and setting up tents in high-profile public places. Manus went down to Dublin's Dame Street Occupy site to lend his support. He sparked up one of his pre-rolled one Skinner spliffs and had already taken a pill when some bloke with a red dreadlock came over and told him it was forbidden. Manus and the Red Dread's ego clashed until Red Dread was threatening to go off and find some police to arrest Manus. Manus couldn't afford to get arrested. He had a 6-year-old daughter to look after. So Manus left the camp. He was raging. He stayed away for a bit, long enough for him to cool down. When he went back, the next few General Assemblies were taken up in large part by a debate on whether or not the Occupy movement should march alongside the trade union who had invited them. At least 3 General Assemblies were given over to the debate. Then on the day finally arranged to vote on the matter, 8 people were able to block the vote by saying it was against the basic principles to march alongside trade unions whose leading representatives were part of the 1%, as though the rank and file membership were polluted by their leading representatives. It didn't make sense. But speeches were made, delivered with gusto and much sweeping back of the hair, fists thrust in the air. Many references were made to the heroic dead of the 1916 rebellion. Of all the rebels from that period, the 8 reminded Manus of De Valera. He had said something about only having to look inside his own heart to know what was best for the Irish people. Lots of people left the General Assemblies that night, never to return. Still, Manus didn't give up. He went down again one night. They had a little hut now out and a picket fence round the tents. They had a bouncer patrolling the perimeter. Looks like a private club, Manus said to the bouncer. He said it to provoke a rise. Bouncer didn't bat an eyelid. Yeah, it pretty much is at this night time. Different during the day, though. Manus went down during the day and it wasn't much different. It still looked like a private club. The point was brought up at a General Assembly and suggestions were put forward to make the camp more hospitable and open to outsiders. Someone suggested that smiles on the campers might help welcome people in. Manus had half a fear that a smiling policy might be passed. People could be funny. A man called Lawrence launched a complaint about the Irish national flag being flown outside the little hut. The complaint was more about the way the flag was just put up without any consultation of anyone else in the camp. The nationalist contingency made a strong case for flying their flag. Manus threw his tuppence worth in. He was not a nationalist. As a child in Belfast, the flag had been illegal, and he, along with the rest of his Christian Brothers primary school, had, after a day trip to Dublin, smuggled tiny little tricolours into the north. In his pre-teen years, Manus had ran through the high-walled cobblestone courtyard of the city centre's police barracks with the flag. He had caused an orange band, parading its supremacy and domination, to stop in shocked horror and consternation when he had stuck his tiny symbol of defiance out his bedroom window. It meant something very different to him then. Now, flying down on Dublin's Dame Street Occupy camp, it reminded him of loyalists flying Union Jacks up north. There were nationalists in the movement. There were also internationalists who rejected the whole notion of state-imposed boundaries. There were anti-drug campaigners in the movement. There were also drug users in the movement who rejected the notion of having some nanny tell them what substances were drugs and which they could legally use. You'd soon be able to buy real democracy and Occupy t-shirts in the big brand stores. Market forces have the ability to encompass mostly everything. Every individual, group, club, movement, regardless of what banners they fly or personal belief system they hold. The market would be pliable and accommodating enough to make profit for them. The market snubbed no one. The Occupy movement had to become just as encompassing. Manus and millions of others around the globe, both on and off Occupy sites, wanted to make a world that prized human needs over corporate profits. The road is long, the struggle hard, and victory is far from assured. But what choice do we have but to keep on trying?